I remember you started writing. I think was it when I got you the iPad? Is that when you officially started?
Yeah, about
or had
that.
you or had you been doing it on your phone?
No, that's a good
I
question.
think you had started kind of like doing something on the phone
Using
first.
dictation, like,
That's right.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I remember at one point you started interviewing and doing these recordings
Mm-hmm.
with your mom.
Correct.
That was at the very beginning, right?
Like midway of
Midway?
making a decision.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And talk about that work, getting these recordings, sitting down, gathering
Sure.
stories, right? Talk about that.
Well, the interesting part is that if you can imagine, 20 years had passed, we never talked about the accident. And so when you read about in the book how I share, we never talked about it again. We literally never talked about it. We moved on, and every day was a new day, but we never went backwards. We never sat and said, hey, remember that time in the hospital, that this happened, or that visitor, or remember it was a difficult time, or even the celebratory moments like getting out of the wheelchair or getting back in the car. We never really talked about it. So I'll tell you, it was an emotional time, to sit down and record and talk about like, well, what were you going through? You had a job, and I remember this and she remembers that, but piecing together, our different parts of the story or that emotion, it was hard because you're bringing up stuff that we had just decided, that's the past. That's the part that maybe we weren't hiding it, but we just wanted to let it go, not remember it, and move on to a new day. Not realizing, there could be healing talking about it. And that actually is what happened through those recordings, was that it actually made things more whole. Bringing some of that darkness to light didn't really actually hurt us, or cause pain. It actually helped.
Yeah, that's interesting because I would imagine for some people hearing that, they're like, well, I don't want to go back there.
Of course.
Right? I don't want to go back to that point. And so in the very beginning, was there a part of you that didn't want to go back to some of those stories?
Oh, sure. I mean, let's be honest. Through the whole process,
Yeah.
I think, so let me just take you to the end. When I thought that I had written everything that or said that I wanted to say, I had an amazing help with this, having Akila, and I've told her everything, or I've written to her and said, okay, here's my story, right?
Yeah.
Make it better. Even then I thought I've shared enough. Like, I'm good, and that wasn't enough. It's scratching the surface. So when we actually sent it to editing, it's like, well, what were you really feeling through this? What were you going through? Why was that emotional? And there were parts where, I had to kind of just remove myself, or I felt like I was walking through a fog. I mean, you were going through it.
Yeah.
Because I'm literally having to put myself and my mind back into a place that I never wanted to be or stay in. But I think, when people say that phrase, like, I had to feel the feels, it sounds silly, right?
Yeah.
But that's what you go through when you actually drum up all those memories and you sit down with somebody and talk about it, whether it's your family member because you both went through it, or you're just, you and I talking about maybe something that you hadn't gone through, but I want to share. You have to go through all those emotions and feelings, and that's hard.
Very.
But when you do it, it actually feels better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.